The boy attended the main family's judgment ceremony for the first time, and he shocked even the world's strongest S-rank knight. All because he finally revealed the secret he had hidden his entire life. He possessed 7 wings. He even made a deadly vow. If anyone dared touch the Westcott family, he would wipe out the entire Elmheim family, no matter the cost. Even the boy's father was stunned by what he had just done. Even the one powerhouse in the world couldn't suppress his battle instinct, eager to test him personally. What none of them knew was that this so-called world's strongest man had been Astor's most respected father. In his previous life, the father who preached justice in public had secretly thrown Astor away like a disposable pawn. Astor dragged his ruined body forward for one reason only: to get an answer, but his father's answer was merciless. The best fate for a wingless one was to be used as bait. Wingless was the disgrace Astor had carried his whole life. He was raised in Elmheim Manor, the most elite family on the continent, but from the very beginning, Astor had been unable to use magic at all. His father Roderick, the head of the family, was the only 7-winged mage on the continent. The number of wings on a mage's back determined the level of their power. Since Astor couldn't use magic, all he could do was train his body to the limit for 20 straight years. He never slacked off for even a single day, even while the other heirs mocked him as the wingless one. Astor still never let up, doing everything he was told without fail. That lasted until the day his father ordered him to take command of the Eastern Army and launch a strike to the north. But along the carefully planned route, countless enemies had already been lying in ambush. He had trusted and followed his father for years, never imagining he would end up as nothing more than a sacrifice. It was only then that his father finally told him the truth. He had never been his real son. Astor was just a child picked up on a snowy night. At that moment, he finally understood all the abuse he had suffered over the years had been silently allowed by his father. Burning with rage and grief, Astor raised his sword and charged. He had always thought he was being hardened through trial, only to realize no one had ever expected anything from him at all. Astor unleashed every last ounce of his strength. He poured all of his fury onto the father he had once admired most. Roderick only sneered, "Your power means nothing to me." The next second, chains shot out and locked Astor down completely. In that instant, his body was cut apart. A wingless one will always be the lowest kind of pond. You should be crawling on the ground like the most pathetic insect. Astor kept asking why over and over again. Why had he been taken in on that snowy night in the first place? Since you want to die knowing the truth, I'll make sure you understand it completely. He had only been brought back for one reason: to seize the power of the 7 wings from him. Astor was in disbelief. What exactly did it mean that this power was inside him? His mother had been an extraordinary woman, and she had given birth to a child who carried the power of 7 wings. And Roderick had hunted her down for that power, then taken Astor away in the end. Astor couldn't accept it. His entire life had been toyed with from beginning to end. In the end, Astor met his death. Born in blood and dying in blood. When Astor slowly opened his eyes again, he wondered if this was the afterlife, but the lingering warmth in his body snapped him awake. This wasn't a dream, it was real. Where exactly am I looking at those tiny hands? Astor finally realized he had turned into a baby, and the woman lying beside him was already dead. Just then, Astor suddenly heard other voices. He could sense people searching for him nearby. The leader shouted, "Find that child. No matter what this is for Lord Roderick." That name, could it really be true? Roderick, that was the name of his father from his previous life. He's searching for a baby. Have I really been reborn? There were still too many things he needed to confirm, but escaping came first. He absolutely could not let them capture him again. Driven by sheer survival instinct, Astor dragged his infant body slowly through the snow. He had no idea how long he had been crawling. All he knew was that his consciousness was fading fast. As long as he still had even a shred of awareness left, he had to keep moving. Then suddenly, a young girl appeared right in front of him. "Father, there's a baby out here in the snow." The man she called out to was Hebrid, the head of the Westcott family. "Why is there a baby out here in the snow?" And the child looked completely exhausted. Hebrid looked up in frozen shock. The long winding trail across the snow had actually been left by a crawling infant. What kind of child could crawl that far in weather this brutal? In his daze, Astor slowly regained a little more consciousness. But the moment he opened his eyes, he realized someone was pinching his nose. 5 girls were gathered around him, staring at him with curiosity. They were all laughing and bickering, fighting over who got to hold their little brother first. Alfin said I'm the oldest, so obviously I should get to hold him first. Aster didn't care about any of that. He immediately struggled out of their arms and tried to run. What happened after I passed out at once? Shouts erupted behind him. Catch little brother, his desperate urge to escape suddenly made. Golden light burst from his body. The next moment he shot straight out of the house. Floating in midair, Aster was stunned. Is this magic? If I fall, I'm dead for sure. Right as he was about to tumble off the roof, a pair of large hands caught him gently and pulled him into a firm embrace. Aster instinctively turned to look back. The man holding him looked exactly like the head of the Westcott family. The Westcott family was, after all, a branch of the Elmheim family. Heverin and Roderick had once protected the kingdom together. In Aster's memory, Heverin would die in a certain war, and his entire family would fall with him. He never imagined he would end up being taken in by a branch of the Elmheim family. He had wanted to escape Elmheim, only to circle right back into the home of one of its branches. A noblewoman looked at Aster with deep kindness in her eyes. From now on, you, my child. Heverin had always wanted a son to inherit his title, but child after child he had only been blessed with daughters. Heverin said this child carried astonishing magical power, and the mark on his back proved it. This child actually bore the legendary mark of 7 wings. Only then did Aster finally understand why he carried this mark in the first place. In an instant, memories from his previous life came rushing back. Roderick had once said with his own mouth that he only took Aster in for this exact power, which meant the mark on Roderick's back had been stolen from Aster. All along, this child's mark is far too important. What are you planning to do with him? After carefully examining the child's back, Heverin finally confirmed it. It was truly the 7 wings. And at that moment Aster grew even more uneasy. He could not let that power fall into the hands of the Elmheim family ever again. After a brief silence, Heverin finally said, we should raise him ourselves. He is still just a child. If we guide him properly, he'll never abuse this power in the future. Maybe this was heaven's gift to them, the boy they had always dreamed of. The door was suddenly thrown open, and it was obvious the girls had been eavesdropping outside for quite a while. They had finally gotten a little brother, so of course they were all watching closely to see what their father would do with him. The sisters cared deeply about this new member of the family, and from that day on he was given a name, Aster. 10 years later, at the swordsmanship evaluation grounds, Lord Heverin, the other nobles are already waiting for you right behind him. Aster slowly stepped down from the carriage. This was his first time accompanying his sister to the swordsmanship evaluation. The evaluation was a grand gathering organized by the Elmheim family. Every branch family sent their eligible young heirs, making it a brutal stage where the next generation displayed their strength. The moment the Westcott family arrived, they became the center of ridicule. People whispered behind their backs, mocking the Westcotts for having no true heir, and resorting to adopting a child of unknown origin. In the eyes of these so-called elites, what the Westcotts had done was a complete stain on Elmheim's name, and to them Aster was the most embarrassing fake of all. Aster, don't mind those stares. That's just the position our family is in right now. Father Alfin, I'm not so fragile that a few nasty words would get to me. I brought you here today so you could see reality with your own eyes. Pastor, does a family like this disappoint you? Not at all. I just think their arrogance is nothing more than the bluster of the weak. Heverin burst out laughing. That's my son in his previous life. Aster had come here too, but back then all that greeted him was endless humiliation. This time was different. He had returned carrying the mark of 7 wings, and this time he was going to make these people pay. Following his father, he walked straight into the inner grounds. So that's the adopted son of the Westcott family. From the shadows, two scornful gazes locked onto Aster. Aster sensed the malicious stare and slowly turned his head. In his previous life he had died by their hands on the arena stage. Inside, the atmosphere had already reached a fever pitch. Geniuses and trainees clashed in brutal duels. It was the perfect stage for the great families to measure each other's power. Aster, this place is way too loud. No wonder my other 2 sisters refused to come at all. Aster stared at the arena and slowly fell into thought. All the humiliations of his past life began surfacing, one by one in his mind. Aster, what's wrong? Maybe it's just because this is my first time at a place like this. I'm a little tense. Aster, stay here with your sister. I have to attend the nobles' meeting. take care of her. Elfin immediately looked annoyed. Father, I'm the older sister. Since when does the little brother take care of the big sister? Hevereth smiled, asked her. There are plenty of people your age here. You could try making a few friends. But remember one thing. You must never reveal the secret of your 7 wings. After giving that warning, he turned and left the arena. At the same time, the people around them noticed the two had been left on their own. Astor had no intention of socializing. To him, dealing with people was nothing but a burden. Then suddenly Astor spotted his target sister. I'm going over there to have a chat with some friends. On a sofa not far away, 2 young men sat surrounded by a crowd. So you are the Westcott family's adopted son. What exactly do you want? You must be the Dallas brothers from the main house. I'm from a branch family. I just came over to greet you. Properly greet us. The other side let out a sneer. How ridiculous. A worthless branch family mutt thinks he has the right to speak to me. First the Dallas brothers. What a bitter reunion. Elfin hurried over and grabbed Astor's arm. You greeted them already, we're leaving. So you are Alfin from the branch family. That sneering tone made the girl's body tremble uncontrollably. You used to hide behind your father, and you are still just as timid now. In the name of the main house, I order you to come drink with us. You may be the main house, but the relationship between us has never been one of master and slave. Astor, let's go. There's no need to waste time on them. Don't rush off, Elfin. I'm not done talking yet. You were born into a useless family. Your father is a failure and failure runs in your blood. Elfin finally snapped. Take that back. Dallas gave a cold laugh and spat out the wine in his mouth. Branch family trash. Who gave you the nerve to speak to me like that in front of us? You better learn what humility means. Seeing his sister humiliated, Astor silently clenched his fist. He casually took a bottle of red wine from one of the bystanders. Sister Elfin, leave this to me. He tossed the bottle over. Consider this my apology toast. Dallas instinctively reached out and caught it. In that split second, Astor shattered the glass. Red wine splashed all over the man. In an instant, Astor. His expression stayed cold, as if he had just done something utterly trivial. So are you satisfied with that drink? If not, I can always pour you a few more. Meanwhile, a servant slammed open the meeting hall doors, shouting in panic. Can't you see we're in the middle of a meeting? What's the panic? The children from the main house and the branch house, they're about to fight. What exactly happened? Havreed's expression changed instantly and he hurried toward the arena. Father, Astor is going to duel someone from the main house. Because of me. By then, the arena had already been packed tight. Not a single gap remained. Havret, don't be so tense. A little sparring between kids is perfectly normal. An adopted piece of trash dares challenge the dignity of the main house. A faint glow of magic slowly appeared on the back of Dallas's hand. The crowd instantly burst into shocked cries. That's the 4-wing mark. No wonder he's a genius of the main house. Surrounded by all that praise, Dallas sneered. Show me your mark. Branch family trash, don't tell me you're already too scared to move. The way you love showing off is honestly embarrassing. I'm not nearly as desperate for attention as you are. You want to die, fine. I'll make you pay for that. Both of them took their battle stances at the same time. Dallas could hardly wait to cripple Astor right then and there. Weren't you acting pretty arrogant just a second ago? Why are you only defending now? From just a simple clash, Astor's arm went numb. The power of the 4-wing mark truly wasn't something to underestimate. Why did that smile disappear? Can't even talk anymore now that I'm crushing you. Dallas's sword grew faster and faster, his attack surging like a tidal wave, leaving Astor almost no room to move. It's built for extreme speed, but the power behind it is noticeably hollow. By now, Dallas was completely intoxicated by the thrill of certain victory. In his eyes, Astor was already trapped. With nowhere left to run and no strength left to fight back, he decided to end this farce in the fastest way possible. Dallas leapt into the air and poured all of his magic into one devastating strike. The entire crowd held its breath at once. Everyone knew the winner would be decided in this very moment. But the attack that should have sealed the win was blocked by Astor. With shocking ease, Dallas was horrified. Why is it that no matter how much force I use, he takes it head on? Only then did Astor finally speak. You've disappointed me more than I expected. With nothing more than a casual swing of his sword, he blasted Dallas straight back. I was planning to test your strength a little longer, but now I can see there's no point. Astor's sword moved slowly and almost lazily. Yet every strike left Dallas feeling completely overwhelmed. His attacks looked unhurried, but each blow landed with the weight of a mountain. Even one of the top knights watching nearby couldn't hide his surprise. Now this kid is interesting. No one had expected a genius from the main house, with a four-wing mark, to be completely suppressed by an adopted child from a branch family. More importantly, the magic radiating from Astor was enough to make people feel fear, on instinct alone. Is this really the kind of strength a branch family child should have? Dallas's face was now filled with pure fear. I have four wings, how could I lose to trash like you? Astor said nothing, he only stared at him with icy eyes. And the magic gathering in his hand unconsciously intensified again. It swelled like a raging tidal wave, growing more violent with every passing second. Off to the side, Everett's palms were slick with sweat. I absolutely cannot let him lose control again. 3 years earlier, Astor's magic had already gone out of control once before. Back then even Everett himself had felt a trace of fear facing him. It was the first time he had ever witnessed what it looked like when 7-wing magic ran wild. Fortunately, Astor had still been too young then, and Everett had barely managed to force it back under control. But now the signs were appearing again. Astor's magic was on the verge of going berserk once more. In Astor's mind, flashes of his own brutal murder from his previous life kept surfacing. In the next instant, that violent surge of power nearly swallowed Dallas whole. Alphen suddenly screamed at the top of her lungs. Astor, that one cry managed to calm Astor's magic just a little. But the power he had already built up still came crashing down toward Dallas. In one devastating strike, Dallas was so terrified he wet himself on the spot. He shrieked in panic, frantically screaming his surrender. You should be grateful, Astor said coldly. I can still keep myself conscious right now. Then he looked toward Elfin. Sister, I won. But right at that moment, an even more violent wave of magic erupted from behind him. Astor's expression changed instantly. He knew that magic all too well. It belonged to none other than the father from his previous life. Roderick, so you are the child my brother adopted. Who allowed you to step onto this arena, under the name of an Elmheim branch heir? You're nothing but an adopted son. I am the head of Elmheim's main house, and I do not recognize your status. The moment those words fell, Roderick flicked his arm. Astor was blasted away in an instant. Everett couldn't believe what he was seeing. Roderick had actually attacked a child. Without a second of hesitation, he drew his sword and struck at Roderick. But Roderick, the strongest man on the continent, casually raised a hand and blocked the blow with ease. Using the recoil from Roderick's defense, Everett landed and immediately sprinted toward Astor. He had expected to find Astor collapsed in critical condition, but when he got there he saw the boy still holding up his broken sword. It was that shattered blade that had barely blocked the fatal strike. Clearly, even Roderick himself had not expected Astor to survive that hit. He turned coldly and walked away from the arena. Without even looking back, Astor let out a faint laugh and whispered, Father, I did it, I protected my sister. Astor, you've become a true man elsewhere. Someone spoke with a cold tone. Roderick, that was beneath even you. You actually attacked a child. The conflict between the main house and the branch families had already been severe, and now it was obvious there was no room left for reconciliation. Roderick only replied with indifference. I've never once taken Heverin and his people seriously. I only wanted the branch families to understand their place. And so, after defeating Dallas of the main house, Astor returned to the Westcott family. Once his body had fully recovered, he quickly threw himself back into the family's training. Even the most talented trainees in the family could only stare in shock. Astor, you're insanely strong. At first everyone assumed that after returning from the evaluation, Astor would take some time to relax. Instead, by the very next day, he had already thrown himself completely back into training. I heard it from other people myself. Young master, Astor nearly beat that genius from the Elmheim family to death. It's honestly hard to believe that young master is only 10 years old, and he's already that strong. Astor understood that his performance at the evaluation had been extremely high profile, but all of it had been part of his plan. Doing this would shut up the people mocking the Westcott family. But his real goal was still revenge against the Elmheim family. To achieve that goal, he had to keep forcing out his own potential. That was exactly why he came back from the evaluation, skipped rest entirely and threw himself straight into training. With his current strength, he still stood absolutely no chance against Roderick. Even though he possessed 7 wings, the amount of power he could actually use right now was still pitifully small. More wings did mean a person was stronger, but more precisely, the greater the number of wings, the greater that person's potential, even after years of effort. he still couldn't fully control the enormous magic contained within the 7 wings. When he was younger, his impatience had even caused that 7-wing magic to run wild. That loss of control had filled his sisters with deep fear toward their little brother. It had nearly killed his sister as well. Fortunately, he had still been too young at the time, and his magic had been unable to fully break loose. In the end, it was his father who stopped him after he lost control. That was exactly why he trained himself so desperately. Now lost in thought, Aster subconsciously swung his sword. In the very next instant, the wooden swords around him dropped to the ground almost all at once. Only then did Aster realize he had forgotten to control his strength. Again, a soft laugh came from behind him. Aster, every time you train, you get lost in it way too easily. You really don't act like a 10-year-old anymore. And father wants you in the study. Aster smiled. Sister, you're joking again. I'm still far from strong enough. Since father is looking for me, I'll go see what this is about. By the way, sister Alphen, what made you suddenly decide to wear your combat uniform today? If I remember right, you usually hate that outfit. Alphen didn't answer right away. After thinking for a moment, she finally said, I just feel that as the older sister, I can't keep relying on my little brother to protect me forever. So Aster, when you come back, I want you to train me. I want to become as strong as you. I want to protect my little brother as his older sister too. Aster smiled at that. As you command, my sister. A little while later, Aster knocked on the door to his father's study. Father, were you looking for me? Hevered looked at Aster with a grave expression and said, Come here and sit down first. Seeing how serious his father looked, Aster immediately understood that something important was about to be said. Aster, it has already been 10 full years since you became a member of our family. I originally intended to wait until you were a little older before handing this to you. With that, a ring set with a deep crimson gemstone appeared before Aster's eyes. This is the symbol of the next family heir. Aster, I want you to become the heir to this family. Aster had always known his father intended to entrust the family to him one day, but he had never expected it to happen this soon. Aster, after everything that happened during the swordsmanship evaluation, you should already understand how difficult the Westcott family's status and situation have become. Whether I want to admit it or not, the Westcott family is still ultimately a branch of the Elmheim family. Every other branch family already has an appointed heir. I can't leave the Westcott family's heir position vacant forever, even if noble titles are usually inherited by males. Will my sisters really agree to this? Your sisters are all still at the academy right now. When they return, I'll explain everything to them myself. After a brief silence, Aster said quietly, Since father has already made this decision, my sisters may still end up unhappy about it. Not all of them like me, especially Sister Kudo. She's always resented me for being a boy. Hevered nodded. I'm fully aware of that as well. Fortunately, you bear the 7-wing mark. Even if they want to object, they have very little ground to challenge my decision. Father, I'm sorry, but I can't accept the heir's position yet. I'm still not qualified to be this family's heir. When my magic went out of control before, I merely got several of my sisters killed. Until I can completely control my own magic, I can't forgive myself hearing that. A look of quiet satisfaction actually appeared on Hevered's face. Aster, your maturity never stopped surprising me. Sometimes I honestly wonder if you're really only 10 years old. Since you're not willing to become the family heir right away, I prepared something else for you, and perhaps this gift will suit your tastes even better than the heir's ring. In the next instant, shock spread across Aster's face. Before him was a jet-black magic sword, streaked with flowing golden patterns, the blade known as Graham, the devourer of magic. A little while later, Hevered brought Aster deep into the forest. Father, if this is just to show me the magic sword, wouldn't the training hall be a much better place? Hevered let out a quiet laugh. I have no desire to go to the training hall. Every time you train, you leave the place in ruins. Sword and Graham. Both of these magic swords are treasures of Elmheim's main house, and both have always been items passed down only to the family's eldest son. This time I personally had them brought over from the main house. With that, Hevered pulled away the long cloth wrapped around the weapon. The sight made shock flash through Aster's eyes once again, because this so-called magic sword was actually incomplete. It had no true blade at all. But the moment magic was poured into it, a complete blade would instantly form extending from the hilt. In other words, the true power of this magic sword depended entirely on the strength of the wielder's own magic. In the next second, Hevered swung the weapon and unleashed all the power stored inside it. In a single burst, in just one instant, a terrifying path of raw magic was carved straight through the forest. Aster, this sword isn't without flaws. If the wielder doesn't have enough magic, It can easily drain every last bit of their stamina. But you have 7 wings, which makes you an ideal match for this weapon. So do you want to try it? Aster didn't hesitate for even a second. He reached out, took hold of the magic sword, and kept turning his father's words over in his mind. Then he slowly poured his own magic into the blade. In an instant the sword erupted with violent waves of power, and raging magic wrapped itself around it. Aster stared at the scene in disbelief. He could clearly feel his own magic, actively synchronizing with the sword on its own. At the same time, everyone inside the family training hall suddenly heard a thunderous explosion in the distance. What was that light? Did a meteor just crash down? You idiot, that was obviously something blasting straight up from the ground into the sky. Alphen saw the same terrifying sight as well. It had come from the forest behind the mountain. At that moment, Aster was sitting flat on the ground with an awkward smile. Father, this sword's power seems a little too absurd. Havrith, meanwhile, was still frozen in shock. So this is your power, Aster? That attack just now actually created a brief vacuum in the magic, filling this entire section of the sky. No one in the entire Elnheim family has ever done anything like that. In all of our family's history, you are the first 7-wing bearer to truly wield this magic sword. Once you fully master this power, Aster, you may very well surpass even my brother Roderick. But Aster felt no joy at his father's praise, because he knew better than anyone that Roderick's true strength went far beyond what people could see on the surface. Before I completely master the sword's power, I have to hide everything. The moment others learn that I bear the 7-wing mark, I will face endless jealousy and hatred. Some people might even try to eliminate me in the shadows. Aster, get up while I can still protect you. Master this power as quickly as you can. Aster understood perfectly well. To prevent the tragedy of his previous life from repeating itself, I have to grow stronger as soon as possible, father. Thank you, I'll master the power of the 7 wings as quickly as I can. To protect this family. 3 days later, their mother welcomed the 2 daughters home with a warm smile. Father, mother, your daughter Kudo has returned, and sister Mafu has returned as well. After saying that, Kudo even gave an exaggerated little cough. My lovely little sisters, your big sister is finally back. You missed me, didn't you? But everyone walked right past Kudo and instead shouted, "Welcome home, Sister Mafa. You heartless little brats. I'm back and you can't even give me a hug. Every time Sister Kudo comes back, she messes up all our hair." Kudo immediately protested. That's just your bias, I'm a knight now. I wouldn't be that rude anymore. Right after saying that, Kudo noticed Elfin standing nearby, and instantly moved toward her with a grin. Oh, Alvin, your big sister missed you girls so much. Alvin immediately stepped back with a wary look. Sister, why are you coming after me all of a sudden? Didn't you just say you wouldn't mess up my hair anymore? Mafa glanced around and asked softly. Where's Aster? The moment she asked, Hebrid showed a hesitant expression, and Kudo's previously cheerful face turned cold at once. Meanwhile, in the forest behind the mountain, violent magic was still pouring out non-stop. Aster was drenched in sweat, breathing hard. This still isn't enough. I have to adapt to the magic sword's power as quickly as possible. Right now he could already use his magic to form a blade, but the sword's edge was still extremely unstable. What exactly do I need to do to control the sword as steadily as my father and bring out its true power? Aster, your performance this time was genuinely impressive. The voice belonged to Sister Kudo. Aster froze for a moment and quickly turned around. Sister Kudo, when did you get back? I've already been back for almost an hour, and you were so busy training that you forgot to come greet your own. Sister Aster, did you really lose track of time because of training? Or did you simply not care enough to come greet us? I heard all about what you did at the swordsmanship evaluation, back at the Knight Academy. Aster immediately lowered his voice and replied, I'm very sorry I lost track of time. I also heard that you performed excellently at the Knight Academy, and completed quite a few missions. And on top of that, you were the only one this year to earn the honorary knight insignia. Kudo's expression stayed calm. Earning that insignia was only natural. If I couldn't even do that, how could I ever hope to surpass father? Then she fixed her eyes on Aster. I heard from father that you refused to become the heir. Did you refuse because of me? Hearing that, Aster sighed inwardly. Father really said something he shouldn't have, but outwardly he only answered calmly, I just don't think I'm good enough yet. Kudo stared at him coldly. Aster, both you and father know what my dream is. You should also know why I've always carried this resentment inside me. In the next instant, she slashed through a nearby tree and lunged straight at Aster. Through the burst of splintered wood, Aster immediately dodged to the side. Sister Kudo, what are you doing? All of a sudden a fake smile rose on Kudo's lips. It's been a long time since we last saw each other, so this time your sister is going to give you a little test, and from here on out I'm getting serious. Tightening his grip on the magic sword, Astor frowned Sister Kudo. I can't properly fight you right now. I still don't fully control this sword. Kudo let out a cold laugh. What kind of joke is that? Do you think your enemies will wait until you're fully prepared before they attack? Astor answered instinctively. But you're my sister, not my enemy. Kudo's eyes turned sharp. And Knight's creed is to be ready for battle at all times. Against Kudo's fierce assault, Astor not only had to block and evade, but also divide his focus, to control how much magic he poured into the sword. But at this point I have no other choice. I have to do it. One look at Kudo's expression told me everything. She's fighting me for real. If I make one wrong move I could be seriously injured. So after Kudo returned to the family, the first person she went to find was Astor, who was still deep in training. She had already heard all about his stunning performance during the swordsmanship evaluation, and because of that, she wanted to test his true strength with her own hands. The forest rang again and again with thunderous crash. As she swung her sword, Kudo couldn't help but laugh. Astor, your skill with weapons really is impressive, but I didn't spend all that time at the Knight Academy, polishing my swordsmanship for nothing. But that broken sword you're using, what exactly is it? The magic covering it keeps surging and fading. It's completely bizarre the way you're fighting right now. You look like a beginner who hasn't mastered magic at all. Pressed back again and again by Kudo's relentless offensive, Astor could only retreat. Sister Kudo, you really haven't changed at all. You still show absolutely no mercy. Kudo's gaze turned icy. Astor, when I'm facing you I can't afford to hold back. It is precisely because I'm male, the only one in the family with inheritance rights, that Sister Kudo has always treated me with unusual harshness. Or perhaps it is because I bear the 7-wing mark, and she has always felt compelled to push me harder. No matter what it is, Kudo always compares herself to me, as if she truly sees me as her destined rival. Suddenly Kudo gathered power and leapt high into the air. Astor immediately sensed an unusual surge of magic. In the next second Kudo came crashing down from above. Wrapped in overwhelming magical force, with fierce unwillingness burning across her face, she shouted, Astor, you are not worthy of becoming this family's heir. Elsewhere Manhwa felt the violent fluctuations of magic coming from the back mountain, and frowned. Father, is it really alright to let Kudo and Astor fight like this? If this keeps going one of them is definitely going to get hurt. But Heverid remained calm. They've seen each other as powerful rivals since childhood, but they would never truly harm one another. Manhwa still couldn't hide her concern. I don't know why Father is so confident, but I hope things really turn out the way he believes they will. Then she suddenly seemed to remember something else. Come to think of it, why did Father call us back so urgently from the Knight Academy? This time was it really just to discuss the heir issue? Heverid answered in a low voice. Of course it wasn't just for that. Then he turned and pulled something out from a drawer. The moment Manhwa saw the crest on it, her expression changed sharply. That mark, is it from the main house? Heverid nodded. That's right. It's a summons from the main house. After what happened during the swordsmanship evaluation, some of the people in power in the main house have taken an interest in Astor. They want him to come to the main house and meet them in person. This is a very serious matter, because none of us knows what the main house actually wants. Manhwa lowered her voice. You're right. We have no idea what the main house intends to do, and the worst case scenario is we could lose Astor in the forest. On the other side, Astor and Kudo were still locked in a fierce, deadlocked battle. Sister, why are you still clinging to this? I already made it clear to Father that I refused. Kudo gritted her teeth and snapped. That's exactly why I'm even angrier. I've dreamed of becoming the family head my whole life, but because I'm a woman I was never even given the right to inherit. So why is it that you can reject it so easily? As she spoke, Astor clearly felt his sister's power growing heavier and heavier. The crushing pressure came straight at him. Her strength feels like that of some massive beastman. Without the slightest hesitation, Kudo kept pressing Astor down with her long sword. Sword slammed against sword again and again, sending sparks everywhere. But in the next moment, Astor suddenly shifted left and redirected the force, narrowly avoiding a pure head-on clash of strength. Then, he drew his blade out from the left and slashed sideways toward Kudo. Seeing that, Kudo actually laughed. So you avoided a direct clash with me just now. Don't tell me, you actually think a trick like that is enough to beat me? Before the words had even settled, sword aura exploded out of Kudo's body, sending everything around them flying. Astor, who had nearly landed a hit on her, was blown away by that force as well. I never expected Sister Kudo to still be holding back power on this level. Aster, if this is all the strength you have, then you've disappointed me. A true swordsman is someone who can fully fuse swordsmanship and magic into one, to be honest. Based on the strength you've shown so far, I'm disappointed. The number of wings did determine a person's magical potential, and it also represented their talent and ceiling. But what mattered even more was never how much magic you possessed. It was how much of it you could actually call upon and make your own. Aster, you are the bearer of the 7-wing mark, while I only have 5 wings. And yet just now you avoided a direct clash of magic with me. How little faith do you have in your own power? Do you not even trust yourself? Or are you still afraid your magic will spiral out of control again, and hurt us just like it did 3 years ago? Afraid, is that really it? Why is the magical blade I create always unstable? Because deep down I've been suppressing my own power this entire time. The reason this magic sword has never stabilized isn't the weapon itself. It's because I've never truly trusted my own strength. Yudo stared at him, her voice thick with emotions she had buried for years. Aster, do you have any idea how jealous I am of you? From the day you were born, you had the right to become the heir, and you even carried the 7-wing mark. That's called the strongest on the continent. I dreamed of becoming the family heir too, but I never had that chance. Aster, I'm so jealous of you. It drives me mad you can casually have everything I could never obtain, no matter how hard I fought for it. Aster slowly lifted his head and said in a low voice, Sister Kudo, I should be thanking you. Instead, he made me realize that I can keep fearing my own power. As he spoke, he completely released the magic inside him and swung the magic sword freely. The once aggressive Kudo was instantly blasted backward by the wave of force that exploded from him. Thanks to you, I was finally able to overcome this weakness of mine. In the next instant, Aster charged straight at Kudo without hesitation. Kudo's face changed at once. What is he trying to do? He's holding that broken sword with no blade. It should be harmless, but why do I have such a bad feeling about this? Then deep, crimson magic began gathering rapidly around the broken magic sword, and even while that magic was building, Aster's speed didn't slow in the slightest. In the very next second, he swung down hard. Kudo raised her sword to defend, but her whole body still trembled uncontrollably from the impact. Forced to retreat again and again, she barely steadied herself before letting out a laugh. I never expected you to unleash this much power. Aster didn't answer, he only muttered to himself. I don't want to waste this second life. In my previous life, I never possessed this kind of strength, and in this life, it's only because I met the father I have now that my fate has changed, and for the first time I have a real family. Second life, what is even talking about? But the only answer she got was Aster charging at her again, wrapped in violent magic as she watched him rush in. Kudo immediately raised her sword in front of herself. At the same time, she hurriedly covered the blade with magic to reinforce her defense. Yet just before impact, Aster abruptly withdrew most of his power, changed his angle by dropping low, and then recoded the magic sword at the exact moment his strike came through. Only then did Kudo truly understand how terrifying Aster became, when he fully unleashed the magic of the 7 wings. In the end, Aster defeated Kudo in their duel. Several hours later, Kudo finally woke up in bed. She looked around and saw an environment she recognized immediately. Her own room. Why am I lying in my room? Wasn't I just fighting Aster beside her? Manhwa asked softly. Kudo, did you sleep well? You were out for quite a while. Kudo pushed herself up and sat upright. Wasn't I just dueling Aster? Sister Manhwa, what happened after that? Manhwa shook her head. Even if you ask me, I don't know the full details. All I know is that Aster said, you suddenly fell asleep in the middle of the duel. He also told me that you were probably just exhausted from the trip home. I lost. I only remember that at the final moment, Aster's attack was just about to crash straight into me, but right before it landed, he cancelled most of the magic coating his sword. Even so, a small portion of the remaining force still struck me. Thinking about it now, Aster is my younger brother. No matter what happens, there's no way he would truly try to kill me. And yet when I recall the aura that burst out of him earlier, that terrifying killing intent was definitely real. Even though he's several years younger than me, he has truly grown into a younger brother I can rely on. In the next moment, Kudo grabbed her sword. Sister Manhwa, where is Aster? Right now I'm fighting him again. I'm not about to accept losing to him that easily. This time I'll go all out. From the very start, Manhwa looked at her and said softly, if you are looking for Aster, he's already left the family. Shock flashed across Kudo's face. What do you mean he's already left the family? You didn't know Aster received a summons from Elmheim's main house, and father already took him there. The moment she heard that, deep frustration rose on Kudo's face. No one told me a thing about this. Meanwhile, inside the carriage heading toward the main house, I already know that the main house probably took notice of me because of what happened during the swordship evaluation. Hever glanced at him. Aster, are you nervous? The ones who summoned you this time are the leaders of the Elder Council of the main house. All of them come from the Shadow Realm within the Elmheim family. Aside from the heads of the major branch families, there is also as a central power structure formed by the Elder Council. Most of the elders have already retired, but their influence is still enormous. In the 10 years since I adopted you, the main house never showed the slightest interest in you. But the moment the swordsmanship evaluation ended, they summoned you immediately. Aster answered calmly, is it because I humiliated one of the main house prodigies? During the evaluation I've heard, the leaders of the main house care more about the main house honor than they do about their own lives, and any child who stains that honor gets secretly thrown into cages by the elders and fed to beasts. Hevard was visibly startled. Aster, where exactly did you hear things like that? Seeing that, Aster immediately shifted the topic. In any case, I'm already prepared to be punished. At the very least, I've long since prepared myself for the possibility of being exiled from the family. Hevard said in a low voice, Aster, as long as I'm here, I won't let the main house punish you so easily. But Aster shook his head. Father, you don't need to clash with the main house because of me. I was already planning to leave and train on my own once my sisters returned. More importantly, if I'm no longer staying with the family, Sister Kudo will probably feel more at ease too. And besides, I was only able to truly master the magic sword this time because of Sister Kudo. I can feel that I'm already controlling the power of the 7 wings far more smoothly. I want to know just how far I can go. So Father, please don't try to shield me from everything. Hever looked at him and couldn't help sighing. Aster, you never stop surprising me. The things you say don't sound like they were coming from a 10-year-old child at all. Right in the middle of their conversation, a faint sound suddenly came from the roof of the carriage. Aster's face instantly changed in shock, because Kudo was currently cleaning right to the carriage door. Everett was just as startled. Kudo, don't tell me you actually ran all the way after us. Kudo glared at Aster with open dissatisfaction. Aster, you really are a terrible kid. You left without even saying goodbye to your sister. Then she turned to Everett. Father, I already heard it from Alpha. It was those old fossils in the main house you summoned, Aster. Everett answered in a firm voice. Even if you know, I still can take you with us. Kudo shot back immediately. I know you wouldn't take me to the main house. The whole reason you suddenly called us back from the Night Court was to stop things from spiraling into something unpredictable. And the fact that you summoned us back so urgently only proves that this matter is serious, doesn't it? Sister Mao already told me once Aster enters the main house this time, there's a chance he may never come back. Sitting beside them, Aster let out a soft laugh. Sister Mafa is exaggerating. I'm just going to the main house for a visit. But Kudo kept staring at him. Aster, promise me you'll come back to me. You're the younger brother. I've acknowledged more than anyone. And you really are the one most qualified to become the family head. I hate you, Aster. You're obviously my younger brother, and every time you act like you're the one trying to protect all of us. But there's still something I have to tell you. No matter how strong you are, no matter how mature you seem, you are still our little brother. You will always be one of the people I treasure most. Hearing that, even Everett felt a quiet wave of relief in his heart. Taking a deep breath, Kudo said to Aster, I'll be waiting for you back at the Westcott family estate. I still want our duel to continue. I absolutely refuse to let you beat me once and then run away. Aster, I'll be waiting for you. Only after saying that did Kudo finally turn and leave the carriage. Aster stayed silent for a moment before murmuring, she ran all the way here just to say that. Haverick gave a fake smile. Your sister has always cared about you a great deal. Aster's eyes softened slightly. In this life, I truly have the best family I could ask for. Behind the carriage, Kudo kept waving as she murmured under her breath, Aster, you have to come back. And so Aster continued on with his father, all the way to the main house to face judgment. The moment he stepped into the territory of the main house, an atmosphere of overwhelming oppression hit him head-on. Lord Hevereth, the Great Elder has been waiting for you inside for quite some time. We will personally escort you to see him. Hevereth's expression turned cold. I grew up in this place, I don't need anyone to guide me. But the guard still lowered his head and replied, Lord Heverin, forgive me, but I cannot comply. The Great Elder's order was that we personally escort both of you to the tribunal. It looks like this hearing is going to be even more formal, and even more severe than I expected. I can barely remember how long it's been since I last returned to the main house. Heverin lowered his voice. Aster, I believe you already understand this much. This judgment will be harsher than either of us imagined. No matter what they say, stay calm. Aster looked up at him. Father, when you say they, who exactly do you mean? Heverin answered in a deep voice. The Great Elder we're about to meet is the 6th family, head of the Elmheim line, my father and your grandfather. Even as they walked, Aster's eyes drifted instinctively toward the training grounds, not far away among the people training there. He didn't spot Dallas anywhere. Most likely, the injury to his arms still hadn't healed enough for him to train. Aster, are you listening? Heverett's voice yanked him back to the present. Turning his head, Aster saw his father handing his sword over to the guards. Left with no choice, Aster handed over the magic sword as well and quietly said, "Father, I promised my sister I would make it back safely." Then the doors to the tribunal slowly began to open. In an instant the nearly solid, crushing atmosphere inside that chamber made it hard to breathe. The moment the two of them stepped into the tribunal, a low, emotionless voice echoed from not far away. "Hevrith, it's been more than 10 years since you last came here, my grandson Hevrith." Hevrith's expression did not change. "You are correct, grandfather." The man speaking was none other than the great elder of the Elmheim family, the former sixth head of the main house. Aster knew better than anyone that this man was the true master of the darkness behind the main house for the sake of so-called family honor. He valued that honor more than his own life. The sixth family head Zenis. The others seated within the tribunal were all representatives of the most powerful vassal factions. Under the Elmheim family, Aster even recognized several faces he had already seen during the swordsmanship evaluation, but after scanning the room, he still could not find any trace of Roderick. As if he had read Aster's thoughts, Lena spoke coldly, "Are you looking for Roderick? He is not attending this tribunal. Roderick serves within the Royal Knights. He has no time to waste on a trivial matter like this, so this time we old men will handle this burden for him." The fact that Roderick was absent matched Aster's expectations exactly. Even in his previous life, he had barely ever truly seen the man he had once called father, but that only made one thing clearer. Despite the current family head not even being present, Zenis could still summon this many senior figures. That meant the great elder's influence inside the main house was even more terrifying than Aster had imagined. Hebrid raised his eyes and asked in a grave voice, "Grandfather, what exactly is this trivial matter you referred to?" Zenis stared down at him. "You know very well what I mean. The disturbance your child, Aster, caused during the swordsmanship evaluation." Just as expected, they really were using the evaluation incident as the pretext to make their move. Hebrid immediately replied, "Grandfather, Roderick should already have handled that matter personally. Besides, it was nothing more than a clash between children." The moment he finished speaking, voices rose all around the chamber. Even if it was only a clash between children, the Elmheim family's reputation was still stained because of it. "Hebrid, we have no objection to your adopting a child, but he should never have humiliated the main house. The boy must be exiled, and as his guardian, you must be punished as well." Aster snapped back at once. "Everything that happened during the swordsmanship evaluation was caused by me alone. My father knew nothing about it, and he had no chance to stop me." But Hebrid only shook his head slightly, warning Aster with his eyes not to speak any further. Aster's heart filled with confusion. Why was his father still holding back at a time like this? Then a cold voice cut down from above. "Aster, you are utterly lacking in manners. A child has no right to interfere in the conversation of those above him. The honor of the Elmheim family is not something anyone is allowed to trample. The 12,000 finest knights under this family exist for one reason alone: to defend that honor, and every single vassal family seated here dreams of the day the Elmheim family is dragged down from its throne. You may not say it aloud, but we all know the truth. No matter who you are, everyone wants to become the kingdom's supreme family. So if you intend to wash away the disgrace you brought upon us, then you must prove it in the next moment." A sword was placed directly in front of Hebrid. "Prove that your son will never again dare stain the family's honor." Linus's voice remained utterly cold. "You should remember what your younger brother, Roderick, did when he once failed to protect the family's honor. That right hand of yours was cut off by Roderick in this very room. Now I want you to do the same in this room with your own hands. Sever one of your child's arms. If you do, then the crime he committed will be forgiven." In an instant, the air in the entire tribunal became unbearably heavy. Hebrid stared at that sword and spoke one word at a time. "I will never do such a thing. Aster is my child. I cannot raise my hand against my own son like that." Zenis showed no surprise whatsoever at Hebrid's answer. He simply tapped the floor with his staff and said lightly, "If you refuse to harm your child, then let your wife, your other daughters, and the entire Westcott family vanish today." Instead, the second those words fell, the knights surrounding them exploded into motion and charged straight at father and son. It was obvious from their killing intent that they meant to slaughter the two of them on the spot. And yet at that exact moment, Aster suddenly let out a cold laugh. "Zenis, you old bastard, what exactly are you so afraid of?" Clearly Zenis had never expected Aster to dare speak to him like that. In front of everyone, Aster continued in a sharp, icy voice, "Are you really that afraid the main house will be looked down on? That afraid it'll one day be overthrown? If all you want is to deal with us, then fine, we have no more objections. But if you dare lay a hand on the Westcott family, I will never let any of you go. Seeing Aster do something like this in a place like this, even Hevard looked utterly stunned. In the very next instant Aster ripped his upper garment off and flung it aside. Every knight who had just charged forward froze and showed fear at the exact same time, because fully exposed across the boy's back was the complete 7-wing mark. Aster said coldly, "If you harm my family, I'll use the power of the 7 wings to escape this place. And from that day forward, I'll hide in the shadows and watch the entire Dahlheim family without ever looking away. So think very carefully before deciding whether you really want an enemy with the 7-wing mark." In that tribunal, Aster had openly revealed the 7-wing mark for all to see. The sight of it left everyone present unable to believe their own eyes. A mark that had not appeared for hundreds of years. Had it truly returned to the world today? There's no mistake. That mark is the 7 wings described in the ancient records. The first to recover from the shock was Great Elder Xenos. Lowering his voice, he stared hard at Aster. "Aster, do you understand what exactly you have just shown us? Do you understand what that thing represents?" Aster replied calmly, "Of course, I know what the 7 wings mean. The records of every major text make it very clear. More wings mean higher standing." Hearing that answer, a white-haired man at the side could not help laughing out loud. Irma frowned and said, "This is a tribunal. How dare you behave so rudely here?" But the white-haired man raised a hand and said, "Let him continue, the hearing goes on." The wing mark Aster spoke of had another name in the oldest traditions. Holy Radiance. It was said to be a vessel through which humanity borrowed power from the gods, and that power was then passed down through bloodlines, generation after generation. Yet in all of human history, no one had ever truly awakened 6 wings, let alone the legendary 7. According to ancient legend, only the long-lost elven clans were capable of passing down the 7-wing mark. Zenith narrowed his eyes. "Aster, are you trying to claim that you are descended from the elven clans?" But Aster shot back, "If the 7-wing mark on my back is real, then shouldn't you also admit that I may very well come from that ancient elven bloodline?" Even Hevard standing beside him could not hide his shock. Could Aster really be connected to that legendary ancient race? But Aster's expression did not change. "Right now I don't care in the slightest about my origins. I only know one thing: I am a child of the Westcott family. And what I want to know now is this: are you prepared to make an enemy of me? Even if I leave the Elmheim family, countless families outside would fight to take me in, because for people like you, anyone capable of shaking the rule of the main house is a potential threat." But to Aster now, those same families would become one of his greatest assets, with potential surpassing even Roderic's. Some of the leaders gathered here would surely want to join hands. The moment those words landed, the expressions on the elders' faces shifted. In his previous life, these families rebelled together, only to be crushed by Roderick. Now with the 7-wing mark revealed, I am the ultimate prize. I need to find out which of them can truly be turned into allies. Zenith narrowed his eyes. "I still don't believe a child from a side branch could possess 7 wings. To me you are no genius. You are just an arrogant brat from a lowly branch." Aster did not flinch. He answered coldly, "If you think it's fake, feel free to test it yourself. But the second you move against me, those plotting in the shadows will rise against the main house. Without hesitation I carry the 7-wing mark. Stop now and you might still preserve your precious peace for a little while longer." At that exact moment Irma suddenly clapped her hands. She said calmly, "Great Elder, you doubt the boy, yet you don't dare act against him recklessly. So why not test if his wings are genuine before making a choice?" Confused whispers broke out. "A test how?" Irma answered without hesitation. "Simple as the strongest house in the kingdom. Elmheim surely has a trial ground meant for punishing its own. Throw him in. Let him fight a magical beast that alone will tell us the truth." Aster understood immediately. Irma's proposal seemed cruel, but it was a calculated move to break the deadlock and give him a chance to move. The Great Elder finally nodded. "Fine. Prove your worth as a 7-wing bearer, and your previous insolence will be erased." Soon after, the group arrived before a dark iron cage deep within the estate. Once a shelter, now a den for beasts. The Great Elder looked down coldly. "Defeat what lies within that is your proof." Beside him Heverett's hands trembled with worrying, but Aster remained calm. "Father, don't worry, you know as well as I do. If I hadn't revealed the 7 wings today, the entire Westcott family would have been destroyed." Without another word Aster leapt into the dungeon. Outside, Irma watched him with a strange, unreadable smile. Deep inside the dungeon, Aster slowed his pace, alert to every sound. Visibility was near zero in this sickening darkness. I must stay ready for an ambush. From the shadows suddenly, Aster froze. There in the dark corner lay Dallas's corpse. At the same time low, savage growls echoed from the shadows ahead. For the first time Aster's expression turned completely serious. Sensing life, the beast let out a violent roar and lunged. Aster drew his demon sword. In one smooth motion a flash of red sliced the dark, piercing the Wolf's heart. With a thunderous crash the Wolf was torn apart, dead on the spot. The spectators outside were stunned. No one expected Aster to kill such a beast, without even using his 7-wing mark. Aster only muttered under his breath, "Compared to my sister this thing is nothing." But in the next moment a vile presence rose behind him. Aster turned his eyes, narrowing this horror. It's not right, this isn't a normal monster. It's a true undead creature. In seconds the Wolf's ruined body restored itself, its power growing even more violent than before. Outside Heverett blurted out, "An undead in the family trial grounds." Zenas smiled cruelly. Undead are drawn to the scent of death. Perhaps the rotting flesh here attracted it. The family paid a heavy price to capture that beast. Fire cannot kill it, cutting it apart is useless. Still, thanks to that Wolf, we no longer have to worry about how to dispose of failures. Heverett's face darkened. Great Elder, this is too much, expecting a child to kill an unkillable monster. Are you prepared to watch a 7-wing talent die? Venus's voice was ice cold. A talent that cannot be controlled is worthless. The crowd stared into the dungeon, the atmosphere suffocatingly heavy. Zenas continued indifferently, "Don't expect a rebellion. A dead 7-wing bearer is of no value to anyone." Hearing this, even Irma felt a trace of sorrow. Being born in Elmheim truly is a tragedy. Aster survived this, she whispered inwardly. Prove them all wrong. At that moment, Aster was still locked in an endless battle against the demonic Wolf. No matter how many times he struck it down, the beast recovered only moments later. Worse still, with every death, its power surged to an even more terrifying level. An undead creature grinding it down like this is completely pointless. To truly destroy it, you must either incinerate it under direct sunlight, or purify it with a sacred weapon. If neither is an option, avoiding the fight altogether is the only wise choice. But for Aster there was no way back. If I want to prove my worth to these families, I have to show them a power that dwarfs everything else. In the next instant, a raging storm of 7-wing mana flooded the demon sword, crashing down onto the Wolf. The beast's body was vaporized instantly by the sheer impact. The force of the strike blasted a deep crater straight into the dungeon's reinforced wall. The elders outside were thrown back, stammering in shock. So this is the real power of 7 wings. Clearly even Zenas hadn't expected that a single burst could be this overwhelming. But even so, brute force alone was not enough to kill the undead. Aster's eyes sharpened as he scanned the debris. Is it done? Before the thought could settle, the Wolf reformed in an instant and lunged with lightning speed. A monstrous force slammed Aster down, pinning him so hard his bones groaned under the pressure. It's alive, and it's gotten even faster. Above the pit, Heverett shouted in a panic. Aster, Heverett interference now will only get him killed. Your only job is to stand there and watch. Heverett's eyes reddened as he roared. That's my son, you expect me to just watch him die? But a voice nearby spoke calmly. Don't panic, look at his eyes. That's not the look of a boy who's given up. At that very moment a confident smile curled on Aster's lips. Perfect, everything is going exactly as planned. In the next second, pale red flames began to flicker and burn across the Wolf's body. Aster poured more mana into the broken blade, the energy coiling and spiraling around the hilt with violent intensity. Then, without hesitation, he drove the sword straight into the Wolf's skull. A shriek so sharp it tore through the dungeon echoed. Cold and terrifying, Aster sneered. Did you really think I'd be stupid enough to waste my strength on the same move? Twice the sword, surging with 7-wing power, shredded the Wolf's head into fragments. Heverett was left speechless by what he saw. That was the very technique he had recently taught the boy. But Aster had taken it further. He didn't just infuse mana. He had turned the entire space into a raging mana storm. Outside, an elder screamed. The dungeon is collapsing. Move, Great Elder. We have to leave, the whole structure is coming down. Zenas remained calm on the surface, but his mind was reeling. Is this truly what the 7-wing mark is capable of? Even as a child he can unleash magic that rivals the end of the world. Even Aster himself was stunned. He knew the 7 wings were strong, but not this irrationally powerful. Someone turned to Heverid. Their voice complex. Did you know he could do this? Is that why you were so calm? Heverid could only shake his head bitterly. No, I had no idea. Aster's growth has gone far beyond my imagination. Irma smiled faintly from the side. So then, Great Elder, does this count as passing the test? No one dared answer. Every gaze turned toward the Great Elder. After a heavy silence, Zenith spoke. Everyone has witnessed it. Aster has completed the trial. I have no reason to make things difficult for him any longer. Hearing the acknowledgement, the tension in the air finally began to dissipate. Deep in the dungeon, Aster slowly rose. I heard you loud and clear. But before we continue, could someone throw down a ladder? I don't have the strength left to climb back up those chains. Back in the hall, Zenith fixed his gaze on Aster. Are you certain you want to refuse? Rejecting the main house's tutelage is a decision you will regret. Aster answered calmly. Great Elder, I have no interest in the succession. Staying here would only make me a target for the other heirs. I just want to stay quietly with the Westcotts. Zenith muttered. Your humility is genuine. But I see it in your eyes, something deeply suppressed. You harbor hostility toward the Elnheims. More precisely, you resent Roderick. Aster's expression shifted ever so slightly. Catching the change, Zenith waved a hand. Don't be so tense. I'm not interested in your reasons. But if someone hates Roderick, wouldn't that make them a useful ally for the main house? Zenith spoke coldly. I should have told Heverid long ago. The Elnheim family is not a unified front. In recent years, Roderick has grown far too arrogant, opposing my every move. Your existence is exactly what's needed to remind him that he is not irreplaceable. A short while later, Aster stepped out of the private chamber. Heverid rushed up to him. Aster. What did he say? He invited me to join the main house. Heverid was wide-eyed. He turned down a personal invitation from the Great Elder. Someone nearby sighed. What a waste. You have no idea what kind of opportunity you just threw away. With 7-wing talent and main house resources, you would have reached a terrifying level of power in no time. Aster turned to Irma. Your name is Hermes, right? Why did you help me back there? Help you? I don't recall helping you at all, Aster. I merely suggested that the Great Elder verify the mark, and besides, isn't this the outcome you wanted? As the one bearing 7 wings, you are the true Lord of 7 wings. Hermes then gestured for Aster to look toward the crowd. The scouts of every major family had their eyes locked on him. Some wanted to recruit him, some wanted to kill him, and others saw only a usable pawn. Do you see it now, Aster? This is the weight of 7 wings. From this day on, everyone will have their own agenda. Aster asked evenly. And I wonder, Hermes, are you one of them? Hermes froze for a split second. Then he let out a sharp laugh. I haven't the time for that. I am the headmaster of the Knight Academy. My goal has always been to unearth true potential. By the way, that old man over there, he's the commander of our entire Knight Order. Aster, I'm looking forward to the day you join our academy. Perhaps by our next meeting, your growth will surprise me even more. Amaze. He is far too difficult to read. Can a man like him truly be an ally? Seeing Aster lost in thought, Heverid clapped him on the shoulder. Aster, it's time to go home. Your sisters are likely worried sick. Aster smiled faintly. If they see these injuries, I'll never hear the end of it. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the Knight Commander spoke in a low tone. Young Master Dallas died under the Great Elder's judgment. I heard Aster was summoned to the main house. What is the situation there now? Heverid looked as though he knew the boy would pass. Furthermore, I have an important report. Roderick interrupted coldly. I already know what you're going to say. The 7 wings on that boy. They are real, aren't they? The commander gasped. Lord Roderick. You already knew. Roderick's eyes were ice. Aster is an anomaly. Sooner or later, he will shatter the balance between the great houses. Should we move against him? Number I. Roderick, do not fear a mere child. Even if he grows teeth, he is no threat to me. Yet more importantly, when those wings reach their absolute peak, I will take them for myself. Roderick narrowed his eyes and let out a low predatory chuckle. How far can that infant from the snow really struggle? I am curious to find out, Aster. Your power will eventually belong to me. For years later, Dorsal Knight Academy enrollment grounds. All applicants who have finished their paperwork, move to your positions immediately. Sudden whispers rippled through the crowd. Wait, is that him? The one from the rumors, the 7-wing bearer. I expected a hulking brute. Not that this is the liability waiver. The Academy is not responsible for any injuries or deaths during the trial. Sign it. show your mark, register, and move on. You are from an Elmheim branch family. The registrar's face went pale. Your name is Astor, Astor answered calmly. Astor of House Westcott, my mark is on my back. It's inconvenient to strip here. But your academy should already have my records. With the rumors of the 7 wings spreading, Astor was instantly the center of attention. The moment he stepped into the trial grounds, a rough voice barked, "Hey brat. Did you not hear me? I've taken this exam many times. I've never seen a face as weak as yours. You're in the wrong place. This is the finest trial ground in the kingdom, not a playground for runs like you." Astor simply acknowledged him to keep moving, uninterested in wasting time, but the man blocked his path. Every person here bled and fought just to stand on this ground. The way you walk in here, it's an insult to this entire exam and that tiny toy sword. Get the hell out and go back to your mother. Go sightsee somewhere else. This is no place for a kid. Nearby candidates whispered. Smites is added again, bullying the newcomers as usual. Smites. Someone like him doesn't even deserve the right to make me draw my sword. Just then a voice dripping with amusement cut in. Well, if it isn't the genius from our branch line, Astor. Astor turned to meet the gaze of a slightly arrogant face. Cousin, it's been a while. I'm Gurion of the main house. Since no one told me your birth date, I took the liberty, Astor replied evenly. So it's you, Gurion. As for Dallas, I didn't expect it to end that way either. Gurion shrugged indifferently. Don't dwell on it, a failure has no place in the main house anyway. Besides, Dallas was a nuisance. Even to us, I know all about your wings. But don't think for a second that makes us in the main house weak. Once you enter the trial grounds, no one will be there to shield you. Smythe stood to the side, cold sweat pouring down his back. He finally realized he had just kicked a fight with a monster he wanted absolutely nothing to do with. This internal family feud. He forced an obsequious smile. I was blind, my lord. I had no idea you were in Elmheim. Astor smiled faintly. I don't care for that title. Listen closely, I am Astor, heir to House Westcott. A short while later, at the first examination site, the proctor stood at the front, his voice booming. We are the strongest knights. Our duty is to die for this nation. If you're still taking this lightly, leave now. This isn't just an exam. It's a trial where you wager your life. If no one is withdrawing, then the first round begins. Now finally, I've made it here. In my previous life, I had no magic and no right to stand in this place. This excitement, it's making my body tremble. From this moment on, I truly enter the world of the powerful right now. The strongest man in the entire Royal Knight Order was Roderick. I will catch up to him soon and drag him down from that throne with my own hands. To make that happen, the first step is surviving this trial. Suddenly the chief examiner roared. The test begins now. Above them, concealed mechanism snapped open. In a single instant, a lethal volley of arrows rained down, tearing straight through the vanguard of the candidates. Panic erupted. This was an exam. They were slaughtering the applicants from the very first second. As the iron rain continued to pour, a deep voice echoed across the bloody field. This is the first test. The last man breathing is the winner. Pure terror gripped the crowd as the arrows acted as the Reaper's scythe, cutting down lives without mercy. In the blink of an eye, the grounds were carpeted with corpses. Only then did the reality set in. This was why the Royal Knight Order was hailed as the absolute strongest. A few veterans immediately formed defensive circles, fighting back to survive the onslaught. What the examiners detested most wasn't failure. They sought the truly strong, those who could stand beneath a storm of death and remain utterly composed. The chief examiner's gaze locked onto Astor. Since the trial began, the boy hadn't moved a single inch. Smythe stared from afar in disbelief. Had the kid gone completely catatonic with fear? Gurion sneered inwardly. If you die here, it saves me the trouble of doing it myself. Yet under the bewildered stares of the survivors, Astor slowly raised his hand and gripped the hilt of his demon sword. Without even glancing at the sky, he released the most fundamental pulse of magical pressure. With a thunderous boom, a violent cyclone of mana erupted, instantly shredding every incoming arrow into fine dust. The self-proclaimed geniuses surrounding him were struck entirely dumb. Is this the legendary monster with 7 wings? The chief examiner's heart pounded. This must be reported to Lord Roderick immediately. Far away in the capital, Roderick suddenly opened his eyes. This boy must be eradicated. Yet Astor, the architect of this chaos, hadn't even blinked to everyone present. He was no longer human, he was a monster. The examiner wiped cold sweat from his brow. To manipulate the airflow so flawlessly requires a terrifying level of microcontrol over mana. But he has created a massive headache. Thanks to that stunt, far too many survived. The examiner coldly surveyed the survivors, quickly dismissing the thought, those who got lucky here would just die in the next round anyway. He looked at the panting candidates and commanded, "There is no rest, proceed to the second testing ground immediately." The man who had mocked Astor earlier cried out, "What? We just survived a massacre and we don't even get to catch our breath." Astor gave a faint laugh. "Senior, are you already wearing out?" The man froze. He couldn't comprehend how Astor didn't have a single drop of sweat on his face. The examiner watched Astor closely. He just cast a massive area of effect spell, yet his breathing is perfectly steady. The rumors were true. Let's see what else you can do, boy. In the crowd, Gurion stared at Astor with the eyes of a viper. He was here on a strict mission. His task was absolute: prevent Astor from joining the order. The untouchable honor of the main house depended on it. Soon they arrived at the second area. In the name of fairness, all candidates were forced to use standardized weapons. Smites grumbled loudly. They've never pulled a rule like this before. Most of us use similar gear anyway. What's the point? Astor's eyes gleamed. It was obvious the rule was a last-minute addition to strip him of his magic. Devouring broken sword. Targeting me already, how amusing. A mocking voice sneered from behind. "Cousin, why stoop so low as to mingle with such pathetic riffraff?" Smites flared up. "Who are you calling riffraff?" Gurion gave him a glacial look. "Your father is a mere baron, is he not? Stand too close to Astor, and your entire bloodline might become collateral damage." Faced with the blatant death threat, Smites instantly crumpled, plastering on a sicky sweet smile, as he desperately distanced himself from Astor. Astor watched with weary disgust. Weak men and their pathetic little survival acts. "I will now announce the rules for the second trial." The examiner's voice boomed. "It is a siege battle. You will be randomized into 3 factions. Plant your faction's flag at a stronghold and it is yours. Destroying, stealing, or looting flags means instant disqualification. The faction with the most strongholds wins. Make no mistake, this was another lethal battle. I will now announce the faction leaders. Red Team, Gurion of the Elmheim main house. Yellow Team, the genius swordsman All. Blue Team, Astor of the Elmheim branch house. A signal flare shot into the sky. The trial had begun. Each faction held 3 flags. Victory required securing at least 2 strongholds. In a 3-way war there could be only one victor. Only one winner. Doesn't that mean we have to fight the main house to the death? Astor saw it clearly. They weren't afraid of the exam. They were terrified of the high house. "We can't fight them, we are just minor nobles. Our families would be wiped out by their retaliation. Gurion is the main heir, one word from him and we're all dead. We want to be knights, but we can't drag our families into the grave for it." Astor looked at them calmly. "So you are all forfeiting?" Smite stared at the dirt. "There's always next year." The others backed away, faces pale with guilt. "We are sorry, we are just too weak." In the end, the blue team consisted of 1 person, Astor. It was almost comical, yet he understood. The sheer terror Roderick instilled in this nation was a disease in their blood. Looking at them, Astor remembered his past life. A worthless pawn waiting to be slaughtered. That was why, more than anyone else, he understood the suffocating weight of their powerlessness. Soon after, Astor arrived at the yellow team's camp. Yet there was no sign of battle anywhere inside. It was much quieter than he had expected. "You really did come along." The man slowly smiled, as if everything had played out exactly as he predicted. Astor frowned. "Who exactly is this he you keep talking about? And why had this guy taken down his own team's flag?" In the next instant, shock flashed across Astor's face. The man had actually replaced his own team's flag with a red one. The man grinned. "Let me personally test this rumored 7-wing prodigy. This time it won't be the fair fight you imagined. This is an encirclement operation initiated by House Elmheim. Right now there's only one outsider left on this entire field. And that is you, Astor." Faced with this situation, Astor did not panic at all. Instead, he coldly declared that he would wipe out everyone on the field. Just moments ago, Astor had questioned him. "Why would you abandon your own flag? You're supposed to be the leader of the yellow team." Facing his question, the man simply answered with a smile. "Because I have already formed an alliance with Gurion." This man was the eldest son of House Nolan. The Nolan family was famous for founding court swordsmanship, but over the past 2 years, the overwhelming fame of the Seven Wings had completely eclipsed this five-wing genius. In this battle, would the legendary Seven Wings prevail, or would the former five-wing prodigy prove superior in the eyes of the examiners? Regardless of the year, both of them were absolute standouts, but in this particular exam, only one team was destined to advance. Even if you allied with them, only one team can win in the end. The man laughed dismissively. You don't need to worry about that. I prepared to hand the victory to House Elnheim from the very beginning. Besides, the members of the main house are already heading to your flag's position right now. Astor asked coldly. You're working this hard for House Elnheim. Did they threaten you? The man scoffed. In the Empire today, who would be stupid enough to cross House Elnheim? I am simply making the most advantageous choice for my family. The moment he finished speaking, he swung his sword viciously at Astor, but the instant their weapons clashed, Astor's expression darkened. The sword in his hand felt like it could snap at any second. It was a defective weapon. Recalling what had happened earlier, did that examiner deliberately swap my gear for damaged equipment? The man sneered at Astor. Are you really spacing out while crossing swords with me? In the next second, as the man's long sword came crashing down again, Astor's weapon shattered on impact. Astor immediately caught the broken blade in midair and spoke coldly. If you think you can eliminate me like this, you've severely underestimated me. Then he hurled the broken blade fragment like a hidden dart. The man instinctively raised his sword to block, his face full of disdain. You think you can hit me with a trick like that? But when the man looked up again, Astor had already turned and bolted away. I don't have extra time to waste on you right now. I'll come back for you later. The man laughed. So this is the Seven Wings. You're much softer than I imagined. But suddenly the man's gaze fell on the shattered blade on the ground. This was the weapon Astor was using. His expression shifted. This is absolute garbage. He muttered coldly. Gurion, is this your little trick? I told you I wanted to fight Astor fairly. At the same time, Astor was sprinting back to his own camp as fast as he could. But waiting for him was Gurion's mocking voice. You seem to be late, Astor. Your camp has already been occupied by us. Earlier Nolan said he was confident he could handle you alone. I didn't expect him to let you come back this quickly. But it doesn't matter, you're still too late. All three of your flags have already fallen into my hands. Astor stared at him, his voice terrifyingly cold. Gurion, is this the victory you wanted? Tell me where the other members of my faction are. Hearing this, Gurion spoke calmly. Take a look behind you and you'll understand. In the next moment, a long sword was slowly pressed against Astor's back. A suppressed voice spoke from behind him. I told you from the very beginning, we cannot fight against House Elnheim. I know what we're doing is despicable, but for the sake of our families, we have no other choice. Gurion chuckled softly. Astor, you really are pitiful. On this entire battlefield, you don't have a single ally. Astor, however, slowly raised his eyes and asked calmly, Gurion, haven't you misunderstood something? Do you really believe you can defeat me just by relying on numbers? Gurion responded coldly. Astor, you are the one who hasn't grasped the situation. The victory condition for this siege battle is occupying more than 2 strongholds. Even for you, there's no time left to run around raising flags, because you simply don't have the spare energy to protect them all. Astor's tone grew even calmer. I figured that out a long time ago. So, my goal from the very beginning was to wipe out every last one of you. Hearing those words, everyone present froze in shock. Did he just say he was going to wipe them all out? You can't do it, Astor, Gurion said, staring hard at him. No matter how strong you are, without the enhancement of your demon sword, it's impossible for you to defeat everyone. We have more than enough people to drain your stamina dry. Astor merely gave a faint smile. Gurion, you've thought this through far more thoroughly than I expected. It seems the broken weapon was your doing as well. You really went to a lot of trouble just to deal with me. Gurion's gaze darkened. Ever since Dallas was killed by you, I have spent every waking moment thinking about how to defeat you. The moment the broken blade fragment fell to the ground, Astor's expression finally turned solemn. It looks like it's time to get serious. In an instant, Astor dropped low and assumed a striking stance. Without a sliver of hesitation, his incredibly swift attack struck Smite's head on. At the very same moment the sword was knocked flying into the air, Astor simply opened his hand, and the blade dropped neatly back into his grasp. In the next instant, magic wrapped around the sword, and one sweeping slash blasted everyone around him backward. The sight left Gurion completely shaken. Damn it, he really is a monster. Gurion, your plan really was clever, but you miscalculated one thing. In front of absolute power, every little trick becomes a joke. Gurion ground his teeth. You're not even human. You're a complete monster. Aster gave no response. The violent power of the 7 wings simply began coiling around his ankles. Then he lodged himself into the air without hesitation. His eyes locked onto Gurion as the boy tried to run to Gurion. It felt like a nightmare. Aster had crossed that height in a single jump. Gurion tried to draw his sword, but before it was even fully out, it was cut apart. Your sword is too slow, Aster said coldly. Ever since the first time he felt magic as a child, Aster had loved the sensation. After endless training, he had long since learned how to use magic to suspend himself in the air for short bursts. Gurion stared in disbelief. What are you even talking about? No human can do that. Aster's voice stayed calm. Someone as foolish as you could never understand. Now it's time for you to regret choosing me as your enemy. The next second, a deafening blast rolled across the entire battlefield. Only then did everyone nearby snap back to their senses. Unable to understand what had just happened, Smitha suddenly looked to the side, his face full of shock. How did Gurion of House Elmheim lose just like that? From where everyone stood, all they had seen was Astra fling them aside with a single strike. Then in the next instant, Gurion was already hanging in Aster's grip. Power on that level was far beyond anything they could possibly resist. And while everyone else was still frozen in place, Gurion roared through a hoarse throat. What are you all standing there for? Every one of you kill Aster now. I command you in the name of House Elmheim. Hearing that, Smythas reached for his sword with obvious reluctance. Aster's eyes swept over the crowd. Has House Elmheim really terrified all of you this badly? Someone answered bitterly. We don't have a choice. Families like ours are nothing in their eyes. Elmheim can crush us as easily as stepping on ants. For years all we've done is survive by reading their mood. A genius born with 7 wings. Like you could never understand what that feels like. You were born into one of the strongest bloodlines. Of course you can't understand our despair. Hearing that, Aster suddenly laughed. The speaker flinched. What are you laughing at? Am I wrong? Aster nodded. No. You're not wrong. I do have things that you don't. And yes, I am from an Elmheim branch family. But in this match, my only true enemy was always the Elmheim main house. And I will personally crush every last one of them. The moment those words landed, panic spread through the crowd. Even Gurion was stunned. He had assumed Aster only meant to eliminate him. He had never imagined Aster would go this far and openly disregard the dignity of the main house itself. Gurion barked back. Aster, do you even understand what you're saying? Aster's face stayed calm. The weak can beg and kneel as much as they want. In the end, they'll still be thrown away. If you really want to change anything, then you fight, you don't submit. So now I'm giving all of you 2 choices. Stand with me or keep crawling behind House Elmheim. Barian immediately shouted. If any of you betray Elmheim, I'll make every one of you pay for it. You all know exactly what happens to traitors who turn against House Elmheim. Smythe suddenly cursed under his breath. Damn it! Then the sword slipped from his hand and dropped to the ground. Without hesitation, he started walking toward the flag lying nearby Aster. There's no turning back now, so don't you dare disappoint us. Aster looked at him and replied with quiet certainty. Of course not. I will protect your families. Smythes already understood the truth. If they stayed loyal to Elmheim, the end result would still be a slow death. Then I Smythes. And standing with Aster, everyone around them saw it happen. And every face was filled with shock. Some began whispering to one another. Even Gurion lost. Maybe there really isn't any other choice. Gurion could only collapse to the ground, shouting at them over and over. You traitors, every last one of you will pay for this. Once he had made up his mind, Smythes looked at the others. Better to gamble everything on the 7 wings than die slowly. No matter how much we bow our heads, Elmheim will still throw us away in the end. That made even more people begin to waver. After all, Elmheim had already discarded plenty of loyal families over the years. Watching it happen, Aster understood one thing with total clarity. If he really wanted to overthrow Elmheim, then he would need far more allies than this. These people alone would never be enough. Beside them, Gurion lay limp on the ground, still muttering, traitors. All of you. Someone hesitantly stepped closer. Lord Gurion, are you all right? Gurion exploded in rage. You're all useless. Why are even you starting to waver? I'm the genius of House Elmheim. If I lose this night order exam, they will throw me into the family trial grounds, just like my brother Dallas. He lost and in the end they erased him. Even now the last of his remaining magic was gathering again. He absolutely could not fall here. Just then a steady set of footsteps approached from behind Gurion. You look even worse than I expected. Gurion turned sharply. Why are you only showing up now? We agreed Astor was yours to deal with. So why did you let him get back here? Now that you are here, take care of Astor yourself. In Gurion's eyes, All only had 5 wings, but his swordsmanship was without question the finest among all of them. I'll go kill Astor for me. But before those words have fully settled, All tossed a red flag straight at Gurion. I came here to end our alliance. You trampled on my pride when you arranged for Astor to be handed a broken weapon. From this moment forward, House Nolan is no longer working with you. Those words only made the others panic even more. Even all of House Nolan was cutting ties. All raised his eyes to Astor. I didn't come to find you because of the exam. I came because I want to continue the fight. We never finished. I swear on my own honor that I will defeat you properly. Astor looked at him in silence. All, you are not my opponent. The moment he heard that, All poured magic into his sword. Then he thrust at Astor with a furious shout. I'll prove that 5 wings are not inferior to 7. Astor gave a faint shake of the head. I'd like to settle this with you too, but first let me take care of what's in front of me. Even as he spoke, his sword came crashing down and hammered All's weapon straight into the ground. All glared up at him. What could possibly be more important than deciding the winner, and which side advances if we want to enter the Royal Knight Order? Then a battle like this was always unavoidable, but Astor simply shook his head again. We don't have to move according to a script someone else wrote for us. All, you're a true knight. And I would honestly like to see you at the academy in the future. All answered in a low voice. But only one of us is supposed to get in. Astor turned his gaze toward the others. I didn't gather everyone under me so they could fight Elnheim on my behalf. Before my real plan can begin, I need everyone here to accept my command. And that plan is simple. Every candidate here will pass this exam. The instant he said that, both All and Gurion looked at him in complete disbelief. You're saying all of us pass? That's impossible. Astor didn't answer. He only started walking toward Gurion. Gurion's voice shook Astor. What exactly are you trying to do? Astor replied calmly, don't be so tense, Gurion. I just want you to join me too. A short while later, the chief examiner arrived on the scene in visible disbelief. What exactly do you people think you're doing? One of them answered immediately, reporting to the chief examiner. The rule states that victory goes to the side controlling more than 2 positions. So if we place all 3 flags together, that still doesn't technically break the rules. The chief examiner's face darkened. Are you mocking me? Are you seriously trying to make every examinee pass? Seeing how furious he was, the others all clenched their teeth. Would he really accept such a shameless loophole? The chief examiner stared coldly at Astor. If I order you to defeat the enemy, and instead you shake hands with them, do you really think that counts as completing the mission? Astor answered evenly, if the enemy has become a friend, then destroying them becomes the worst possible option. The chief examiner's expression turned ugly. I'm not here to trade words with you. All of you will resume the match immediately. Astor did not back down in the slightest. The rules never explicitly say this isn't allowed. Then you have no right to force us to change the outcome. Or are you saying that just because you dislike this method of passing, you can deny it by yourself? Besides, if the battle really continues, then House Elnheim will be the side I eliminate. And when that happens, the people with the real headache will be the ones above you. Not long afterward, Astor and the others sat in the hall waiting for a decision. The chief examiner had simply never seen a method of passing like this before, so he had no choice but to consult higher authority. All looked over at Astor and said quietly, Astor, there's something I'm genuinely curious about. What exactly did you say that convinced even a son of House Elnheim to accept your proposal? Astor only smiled faintly. Just then the nearby doors slowly opened. Principal Mims of the Royal Knight Order appeared in person to announce the results of the test. The moment everyone heard that, the entire room tensed up, listening with pounding hearts.